it just sort of showcasing this software and what people can do with it. So in that regard, I'm collaborating with people that are across the world. And he showed me some examples of other people, and I thought it was really cool. And my friends had seen it, and they commented the same.
Yeah, I wish I'm not sure how to formulate it, but like I remember like I was talking to you maybe last year. It was for like 4 to 5 months ago. We were at a party, and you mentioned like you were really struggling with knowing where to take your pieces and like if you should shape them by what like the academia wants you to shape them. Like in particular, you're like, well, like I have these abstract pieces, and people tell me, oh, I should have a focal point, and then other people tell me like, oh, I shouldn't have a focal point. Like, and you're like really struggling with it. But with these pieces, it seems like you're completely free of that now, and that you're just like letting things be. And if so, how or why did that happen?
I believe the conversation I had with you, yeah, it was really, I always struggled with the design process. I mentioned that earlier. And it's sort of a good thing and a bad thing that we have these professors that sort of put us in our place. They say, you need to come to some conclusion about this painting. You need to do this, or not painting, but you need to do this about this project, or you need to have something that the audience would really connect with. And so every time I work on a project, those voices are always there. And I don't really know how it happened. I think over the summer I was just sort of, I had a book about processing, which is the software that I use. And I just sort of started reading for my own reference, and I decided I'd like to do something with the software. And then we got into the studio, and this professor gave us this project, which was design a logo for visualization. And I said, I don't want to do a logo. And so I said, you know, let me do my own thing. And so I decided to use my knowledge that I gained over the summer, and I wanted to really try to begin to understand that software and see where I could go with it. And so, luckily enough, the professor allowed me to do it. I didn't have to make a 2D static image of a logo that most people would think of, you know, like Apple or Microsoft or something like that. And it's quite funny because the professor actually did just sort of stop talking to me. It's just like, you know, I believe in you. I showed him some examples of it, and he goes, yeah, I really like this. So in that regard, the professor actually did stop telling me what to do, and I began to really take control of my projects.
Maybe it's a very simple question, but the O sheep, the big sheep has red eyes. Like, is it just like emphasis on craziness, or is it something else? Because you said that since it was a dream, it was like gray.
That's a good question. Yeah, like I said, I try to move away from representation, so there really is no deeper meaning other than sort of a crazy thing. In fact, when I first showed it, people thought they were roses. I was like, no, the sheep is really crazy. He's like infuriated. You know, he's just trying to go to really basic color concepts.
That was
I guess last question.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you said every time you start over, but I don't know if you noticed there, like with the sheep thing, and then like I was just thinking back to that monkey nightmare thing. Those are two like nightmare concepts that you did, and I think arguably there were two very different times in your artistic career. Do you think what is that? What is the link?
With that regard, I believe though it's a concept that we all have to fight. You know, we all have nightmares, we all have dreams. With the monkey piece, the idea was that the people would actually interact with the piece. It was this space about as wide as the chairs in the projection screen. The monkey sat about right here. And what I really wanted was that I wanted the people to come up to the piece. I wanted them to interact with this monkey. He was sitting on a swing, and it was supposed to be both a childish swing in regards of the craftsmanship, but also the plush toy that was sitting on the swing. So I really wanted people to turn into kids again and go up and play with the swing. But at the same time, it's very nightmarish because it was very dark, and there was only that light in the middle. And so, as the further you got from the middle, it became very dark. But there were little lights in the leaves down on the ground, and so I wanted to allow people to sort of go up there. You know, these little lights are sort of pixies that are lighting the way to help you get into the forest. And it was funny because everybody that was an adult, they sort of pass us by. They're like, oh, this is sort of crap for me, you know. They just go by it and they'd go on to something more interesting, or they wouldn't even notice to begin with. But I knew it was a truly successful piece, despite what my professor said and despite what I thought, when they were a mother and father, and they had this child, and I was sort of sitting there, I was dwelling on this project, because my professor already had told me that she didn't want to talk to me. I had watched, 50 people go by without even taking a look at it. And this mother and father had the little child, and the little child actually ran into this little tree area. I thought, yes, it's successful, I wanted people to turn back into a child, and the child actually ran in there and wanted to play with the swing. And so in that regard, it deals with dreams and nightmares, but with the sheep, what I wanted to play on was sort of historical, not historical, but cliche thought about counting sheep when you would fall asleep. And so when I was thinking about this idea, I was sort of dreaming, half awake, half asleep. And when I just listened to the music, that's what came to me. And I just thought, well, why don't I just play off this cliche thought? And I wanted to make an animation of it, which was very playful and sort of cliche cartoon, because it's not very, it doesn't really speak that I drew it. It's sort of just a cliche cartoonish look. And so that's how they're separate. But thank you for the question. And thank you again for all of you coming all.